Welcome back to Vuln Vibes, everybody. It's time for the WP Safe Block.
Yeah.
And that means we're diving into the latest WordPress vulnerabilities that are out there.
We're going to look at the daily rundown of high and critical WordPress vulnerabilities.
That's right. And, for our OSCP certified listeners out there, you already know how crucial it is to stay ahead of these threats.
Yeah, absolutely.
But today, we're not just going to list out CVEs. We're taking this deep dive a little bit deeper.
We're going to analyze trends.
Yeah.
Scary trends.
We're looking at the big picture here. And trust me, the trends we're seeing are not pretty.
Not pretty at all.
Forget script kiddies. These vulnerabilities are like giving attackers a VIP pass to your website.
Yeah, handing them the keys.
Full site takeovers, even from user accounts you might have thought were harmless.
Exactly. We're talking about privilege escalation.
Oh yeah, privilege escalation.
It's rampant. We're seeing so many plugins vulnerable to it.
So these attackers are escalating from like subscriber or contributor roles all the way up to administrator.
All the way up.
Like they're taking the elevator straight to the top.
And they're working smarter, not harder. That's for sure.
I like that, working smarter, not harder, but not in a good way in this case, obviously.
Definitely not.
So walk us through some examples. How are they actually pulling this off, this privilege escalation?
Well, let's take a look at the MWB HubSpot for WooCommerce plugin.
Okay.
This one had a vulnerability where the capability check for changing the default registration role was just missing.
Oh, no.
So an attacker could just register on the site as a low-level user
Yeah.
and boom, instant admin access.
So just a simple oversight with massive consequences.
Yeah.
Are there other plugins out there with similar vulnerabilities?
Unfortunately, yes. This isn't an isolated incident.
Oh, great.
We've seen the same pattern in plugins like Media Manager for User Pro and Royal Core.
Wow.
It really highlights this systemic issue in how some developers are approaching access control.
That's concerning.
It is.
And I bet this goes beyond just these specific plugins. It's a wake-up call for all of us.
Yeah.
To really scrutinize any plugin that handles user roles and permissions.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on to another trend we're seeing, and it's not exactly new,
Yeah.
but it's persistent, and that's unpatched plugins.
Yeah, it's like leaving the door to your server room wide open with a sign that says, free data, come and get it.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, it's still incredibly effective.
It is.
So what are some recent examples that have popped up on your radar?
Well, the Multi-Vendor X plugin, for instance, had an LFI vulnerability that could allow attackers to execute arbitrary PHP code.
Oof, that's not good.
Nope, not good at all.
Talk about a quick way to turn your site into an attacker's playground.
Instant playground.
And I'm guessing this isn't the only one.
Oh no, not even close.
All right, hit me with another one.
iControl WP had a vulnerability related to PHP object injection.
Okay.
And while not always critical on its own, this could be chained with other exploits for a much bigger attack.
So it's all about understanding that interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It's not just about the individual weaknesses, but how they can be combined for maximum impact.
Exactly. And to show you just how many vulnerabilities are lurking out there, the single-user chat plugin had a weakness that could allow for denial of service attacks simply by manipulating option values.
So it's not always about data theft or full takeovers.
No.
Sometimes it's just about bringing the whole thing crashing down.
That's right.
And I bet the common denominator here is outdated plugins.
You got it. Patching is not a suggestion, folks.
It's essential.
It's your digital life preserver.
But here's the thing, we're not just seeing vulnerabilities that target high-level accounts anymore.
Nope.
Attackers are getting creative and finding ways to cause serious damage, even without admin access.
That's right. Even those low-level subscriber accounts can be a threat.
Wait, you're telling me even those lowly subscriber accounts can be a threat?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For example, the Music Sheet Viewer plugin had a vulnerability that could allow unauthenticated attackers to read arbitrary files.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the sensitive data that could be exposed.
Yeah, that's scary.
And with Live2Do Web Canvas, even a subscriber could potentially delete files, wiping out your entire site.
So the takeaway here is clear, no user account is insignificant when it comes to security.
None.
All right, so let's move on to another trend that might seem familiar, and that's cross-site scripting, or XSS.
The good old XSS.
You'd think by now we'd have this one figured out, but it's still cropping up everywhere.
It's like the cockroach of the web.
It just won't die.
It's hard to kill.
So which plugins have fallen victim to this classic attack recently?
Well, the Link Fixer plugin had a vulnerability where stored XSS could be exploited via broken link.
Wow.
It shows how user-generated content can be a sneaky attack vector.
Right, and I'm guessing there are more.
Oh, there are always more.
It's never just one, is it?
Never.
All right, give me another one.
The Shared Files plugin was vulnerable to stored XSS through DFXP file uploads,
Oh, wow.
an often overlooked attack vector.
Okay.
And then we have the WooCommerce product table light, which
Yeah.
was open to reflected XSS, potentially allowing attackers to manipulate users on the site.
So it's clear that even old-school vulnerabilities like XSS can still have a major impact.
Absolutely, they can.
All right, but now let's talk about a trend that's even more unsettling, because it strikes at the very heart of the WordPress ecosystem, and it's supply chain attacks.
Supply chain attacks, yeah.
Okay, this sounds serious. What are we talking about here?
We're seeing attackers target plugin developers directly injecting malicious code into plugins before they're even distributed.
Hold on, attacking the developers themselves?
Yeah.
That's a whole new level of devious.
It is, and it really highlights the expanding attack surface in the WordPress world.
Yeah,
We need to be much more cautious about where we're getting our plugins from and how we're verifying their integrity.
right. That's definitely some food for thought, supply chain attacks.
Yeah.
A chilling reminder that the bad guys are always looking for new ways to exploit the system.
They're always looking for new ways.
Always upping their game.
Always upping their game. And it's a reminder that we can't just be reactive. We need to be proactive, you know?
Absolutely. So let's shift gears a bit and talk solutions.
Yeah.
What can our listeners actually do to protect themselves? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from privilege escalation to supply chain attacks.
Yeah.
So if you had to boil it down to the absolute essentials,
Huh?
what are the top 3 things every WordPress admin should be doing right now?
Well, first and foremost, patching.
Oh, okay, patching.
You know, I know it sounds obvious,
Yeah.
but so many of these vulnerabilities could be mitigated just by keeping plugins and themes up to date.
Right, it's Security 101.
It is.
But it's amazing how often it's overlooked.
It is.
What's next on your list?
Strong access controls.
Okay, access controls.
We talked about the dangers of privilege escalation.
Right.
So it's critical to follow the principle of least privilege.
Yeah.
Don't give any user more access than they absolutely need.
And this can be tricky in practice, right?
It can.
You've got teams working collaboratively, different roles, needing access to different parts of the site.
Yeah.
How can admins actually implement this without creating a logistical nightmare?
Well, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
But there are tools and plugins that can help manage roles and permissions effectively.
Okay.
You can set up granular access controls, create custom roles tailored to specific needs, and even implement multi-factor authentication for added security.
Okay, so it's not about locking everything down completely,
Right.
but finding that sweet spot where security and usability can coexist.
Exactly.
What's the third essential element?
Staying informed.
Staying informed.
The threat landscape is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
So it's crucial to keep your finger on the pulse of the latest vulnerabilities and attack trends.
So how do we stay informed?
Well, subscribe to security blogs, follow researchers on social media, and keep an eye on vulnerability databases.
So many resources out there.
There are.
And that's where Vuln Vibes comes in, right?
That's right.
We're here to do the heavy lifting, sift through all the noise, and bring you the most important insights so you can stay ahead of the curve.
We are bored.
You know, something that really stuck with me from our discussion today is just how vulnerable even those seemingly low-level user accounts can be.
It's true.
It's easy to get complacent and think, oh, it's just a subscriber. What harm could they do?
Yeah.
But as we've seen, attackers are finding clever ways to exploit those seemingly insignificant accounts to gain a foothold and escalate their privileges.
Good point.
It's a stark reminder that we can't afford to be lax about security, even for those accounts that seem like they pose minimal risk.
Absolutely.
So no more shrugging off those low-impact accounts.
Right.
Every single user have the potential to become a weak link in your security chain. It really underscores the need for a holistic approach to WordPress security, right?
Yeah, we need to be thinking about security at every level,
Yeah.
from the individual user accounts to the plugins to the core WordPress files.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Okay.
We've talked about the essential steps like patching access control, staying informed, but what else can we be doing? What innovative solutions or strategies are out there to help us combat these evolving WordPress threats?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, are we really leveraging the power of machine learning to detect anomalies and identify potential attacks,
Yeah.
proactively? Are we implementing security audits regularly
Mm-hmm.
to find and address vulnerabilities before they can even be exploited?
These are all critical considerations, and I encourage all of you listening to share your insights and ideas with us.
Yeah,
We're all part of this security community, and by working together, we can help make the WordPress ecosystem a safer place for everyone.
absolutely. Let's push the boundaries of WordPress security and make sure we're staying one step ahead of the attackers.
That's a wrap for this week's WP Safe Block. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and keep those WordPress sites locked down tight.